Hello everybody, welcome to episode 4 of Mental Overflow. My name is Master Chen.
I'm Xenophobe.
And as always, we are recording, and we're not live still yet, but we are recording from Sin Shop, the hackerspace in Las Vegas. That's 1075 American Pacific Drive, Suite C in Henderson, Nevada. As I say on the other podcast, we are still the Las Vegas Valley hackerspace. And for those of you who don't know what other podcasts I'm talking about, I am talking about Gray Noise. I used to say it was the Information Security Podcast.
Not anymore.
No, not anymore. Now it's just kind of the world from the hacker perspective, which is kind of, I think, cooler.
I think it's worked out in our favor.
I think it has. You know, and ever since, really sidetracked, not even about this episode, but I think ever since we switched to Discord, like you said,
it's just an easier middle ground for people. Everybody's already on it.
It is. Yeah. So, all right, well, let's get into what we're talking about. And for those of you who do not know what Mental Overflow is, this is more of a podcast that's focused primarily on psychology, social engineering, a little bit of automation, and Xenophi. I love having you on this show because you ask questions that force me to explain myself. You know, I think that's really great.
It's from a different perspective.
Oh, of course. Yeah. Of course.
Because you are a psychology major.
Well, I already have the degree, but I'm not a practicing psychologist or anything. So, okay. So in the last episode, in episode 3, we were talking about open-ended versus closed-ended questions. Mm-hmm. So if you haven't seen that episode, we do have it released. So go ahead and check that episode out. Maybe we'll link that in the description down below. Maybe we should
probably just link the
previous.
Overall,
do that too. We'll take care of that. Mm-hmm. So in this episode, I want to talk about framing. Okay, now framing, we could take a textbook definition of the term. You can look in Social Engineering, The Art of Human Hacking by Chris Hadnagy. Yeah. I really think that's a great book, but of course this is our thing. This is what we're doing here. So I kind of just wrote down my definition of framing, or very basic, very kind of explain like I'm 5, right? And I put how to get your target to see things differently. So, and that's kind of like where I'm going with this whole episode, is just how to get your target to see things differently. Okay. So... if you think about framing, I know that in Social Engineering, The Art of Human Hacking, again by Chris Hadnagy, I know that what he uses is the persuading your wife or girlfriend to see your side for choosing things for dinner. You know, you start by maybe showing her, you have like a 2-for-1 coupon for this steakhouse. Maybe she doesn't want steak, but the frame is that you have a discount now. You have a discount. Maybe it's 2-for-1 or whatever the case may be. There's now an incentive or an advantage to having dinner, maybe not at your first choice. Yeah. So that's an example of framing, and I have a couple of examples here that I want to go into. But first, you're on the same page.
So I was gonna say. So I read a thing. So with that, the topic of spouses or partners or whatever, you're trying to. Were we swayed towards eating at a certain place?
Yeah, so let's say you have a preference that maybe your significant other isn't really fond of. Like maybe you like sushi, she doesn't, or whatever the case may be.
I like barbecue and she doesn't.
Okay, there you go. Now you've personalized this example, right? Yeah. So that would be an example.
Okay. Yeah. So this example. So I read this a little while ago. Would this be considered framing? One of the partners is trying to do something special for the other partner, and you always get stuck in the conversation of, hey, what do you want to eat tonight? I don't know. Where do you want to eat? Oh, well, I don't know. What do you feel like? I don't know. What do you feel like? I don't care. It's like, no. If you go, hey, guess where I'm taking you tonight, and then they're like, oh my god, is it this place? And you had no fucking idea where they wanted to go. But they go, oh my god, is it this place? And you're like, it was that place.
You know what?
Take them there. Is that framing or is that a different form?
Yeah, it's actually more of like a deceptive way of framing, I would say. But I've also heard that example used for to find out what your significant other wants for Christmas or for their birthday. You say, guess what I got you, right? And they're like, is it... Yeah. Right, I think I've seen that example on Reddit. I think, and other places.
I probably saw that example on Reddit.
But yeah, so you get them to kind of guess, and so you kind of know what's on their mind, and you can go from there. So that I would consider that to be a form of framing, a little bit more on the deceptive side, of course. But yeah, that's what framing is essentially. Okay. So I have this little drawing here to kind of conceptualize what I'm talking about. So for those of you who can't, I don't think you're gonna be able to see my notebook. But for those of you, I want you to visualize, let's say you have, and I'm going to use this abstractly. I don't want you to actually imagine a cube, but let's say you have an objective concept. Let's say it's a cube. Okay. Now, there's no opinions attached to it. There's no perception of it really just yet. It's just a cube. It's just an objective. That is what it is. It is what it is. Okay. This clicking might be picking up on the microphone. I do apologize. So you have a concept. Now, it doesn't have to be a cube. I'm just using the cube as an example because
it's just like a single-digit value. It's it's a number 1. It's just a 1.
Yeah, exactly. There's no feelings towards it. There's no bias towards it. It's just, it is what it is. Okay. So you have the objective concept, and then as different people perceive that objective concept, it changes. Now, how do they perceive it? Well, here I have a few filters, right? So maybe they perceive this objective concept through politics. Maybe they perceive it through the eyes of religion or social constructs or social norms or cultural norms, right? So you have now this objective cube, and after it goes through these filters, maybe it is perceived as a pyramid. And maybe I'm not explaining that exactly correctly. My point being, you have the objective concept, and then it's changed as it passes through the filters of perception. Okay. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, and actually, this example comes straight from a book called Mind Manipulation by Dr. Ha Ha Lung. I know in my previous work at DEF CON and like for the Sky Talks, I've referenced that book heavily.
Okay. Is it on Audible?
I don't know if it's on Audible, but again, that book is Mind Manipulation. Okay. It's written by Dr. Ha Ha Lung. Yes, like ha 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 Lung, right?
Okay.
Asian dude. It was actually a martial arts philosophy book because it was kind of like talking about the psychology of ninjutsu, and well, we can get into that later. Okay. But I do highly recommend that book, and I think like that's where I draw quite a few of my examples.
Yeah. Okay.
But yeah, so I'm using that example here, and again, going back to the example, my point is this: you have an objective concept. Okay, it passes through the filters of your upbringing, the way you've experienced the world. And so what looks like something on this end, now it looks like something on this end. It's something different. Yeah. Right? And I'm only using the shapes kind of to help you visualize, right? Yeah. So if you could think of another way to kind of...
Well, so I think another example, and this is going all the way back to like 3rd grade for me. So we sat in a circle in 3rd grade one time, and the teacher kneeled down and whispered secret or something to one of the students, and then told that student to whisper it to the one to their left.
So we're playing telephone.
Yeah, telephone. That's exactly what it is. It went all the way around, and by the last person, it was completely different. And so that's kind of what I'm thinking of in regards to filtering. All these students, they've already gone through a preset of filters being, raised. Mm-hmm. So how they perceived that secret was just a little bit different, but after 16 students, it is completely different. So that's what I'm thinking of with the shape. You got the square, just the generic basic square the teacher gave that secret, but at the end it's going to be a triangle or an octagon or something completely different at the very end, because that's just how it worked.
Right, absolutely. Yeah. You know what? When I was playing telephone as a kid, I would purposely fuck up the secret, like
really.
So they would whisper it in my ear.
Well, so that is a filter, though.
Yeah, it is definitely filter. I am the filter.
Yeah,
I am the reason we don't know the secret. No, but seriously, like I would listen to it from one side and be like, okay, so I get it. Yeah. I heard it verbatim. I got that, but I'm gonna say this,
like something 100% different.
Yeah. 100% different. I was an asshole. But I thought it was funny. But see, that's
the teacher at the end must have been like, "What the fuck?"
And I tried to make it like so. In the game, like if you're playing the same rules that I'm playing, if you didn't hear correctly, you can say operator, and they can repeat what they said. Like let's say they didn't hear you correctly, so you're like, "Okay, operator," and they'll say it one more time, and you only get one more time. I made it so that I didn't let other people perceive that I was fucking it up. So I just like, oh yeah, okay, I got it. And I'd go on to fuck up the secret. And I would say something completely different.
They're like, he's heard it twice. This is definitely correct.
Yeah.
But little did they know, you're like, I fuck off that sentence anyways. And he just went on.
Yeah, like, okay. And remember, we're kids, so I probably said something stupid like Santa Claus isn't real. Oh, sorry for kids. See, I'm an asshole. Yeah. Okay, let's age gate this thing to like 12 and up. I don't know. Yeah. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, so that's an example. That's definitely an example. But so you're changing the the perception based off of what you tell your subject. And so actually that kind of goes to my next point. The next thing I want to talk about was framing in news sources. So if you run the media, if you run the news, you have control or a monopoly over what people hear of the objective fact, right? So you have the objective fact, but it's going through, and I don't care either way. It's going through CNN, it's going through NBC, it's going through Fox News, it's going through wherever.
Yeah.
But all of these different news organizations are all different frames of reference. They're different, basically what I would call perception gates, right?
Yeah.
So CNN is going to put their own bias on it, whatever that may be. NBC is going to put their own bias on it, whatever that may be. ABC, CBS, Fox News, doesn't matter.
Do you think that's because, I mean, I don't know if this is correct for this discussion, but do you think that's because of each individual's mental filter, or are they following somebody else's mental filter?
Well, I will say that each organization definitely knows their audience, and that's something you should do as a social engineer. As a social engineer, you should do that research, and you should know your audience. So as an example, Zenify, let's say I know that you're a hardcore gamer. If I want to bring a concept to you so that you can internalize it and see things my way, I'm probably going to come at you with a gaming concept, right?
Yeah.
So what I'm saying with these news organizations is they know their audience. Like, for instance, Fox News, they know that their viewers are religious, mostly Christian, and that's just a fact. That's just what it is. Obviously, mostly Republican. Whereas CNN, maybe not so religious, maybe more of the atheist side, and of course, maybe a little bit more Democrat. Again, I don't give a shit. That's just what it is. I'm trying to be as objective as I can with this. But again, they're taking the facts of whatever the case may be, whatever the story is, they pass it through their filters to their audience. And so their audience kind of aligns with them because they already have this predisposition to these values. And we talked about it before, which was politics, religion, social norms, social constructs, cultural norms, cultural constructs, you know. And so again, if I was attacking you, not attacking, but we are talking about the realm of social engineering. If I'm going to present something to you, okay, it's going to be with something that I know you would either get right away or conceptualize easily or just agree with. Right? So automation, I know that's a big thing for you. Gaming, I know that's a thing for you. Hanging out and doing these podcasts and hanging out the hackerspace, I know that these are things that you like to do. So if I want to bring something to you, I would frame it in that mindset, or I would frame it in that way.
You're not going to go on about something, you know, like hardcore sports and like outdoors activities.
No, because that concept would be lost on you. Like, did you watch the Super Bowl yesterday? No. Okay, well, I did. I'm not a big sports fan, but I like watching entertaining things. Okay, but I wouldn't use a sports reference for you because it just wouldn't work on you. That's the framing that we're talking about. Okay, so if I don't know my target, then I don't know how to frame these concepts. I don't know how to get closer to you in that sense. Does that make sense? All right, so I wanted to mention that. Actually, I did a Fozzie hour here at the shop. A Fozzie hour, an impromptu lecture in the classroom right before our Gray Noise podcast. But I did a Fozzie hour on framing in the news sources, and I brought up two news sources covering the same topic. It was the same exact topic, and I had the students, or I had the class members, or the audience, I had them pick out the biased language, right? So the biased language, like instead of saying President Trump, right? And I'm using this as an example. President Trump, okay? They recognized it as president, okay? Sometimes they would use Donald Trump, not giving him the title as president. But now you're framing it that way, right? You're framing it in a way that really puts that mindset, that lean on it.
Even though you know he is still the president.
Doesn't matter. It's that
there's president, the official, and then there's Donald Trump, the rich, billionaire.
And President Trump does it too. He does it with his tweet storms, right? Like he'll say sloppy Steve Bannon, right? And again, we're not being political. This is just what happens throughout the day.
No, the facts are these.
But do you see how he's framing it, though? He's putting it in the mind of his followers, let's say his Twitter followers, how to perceive this person. Okay, so now we perceive this person as Sloppy Steve. Now we perceive this person as little so-and-so. or inept so and so, right?
Yeah.
But these are the words that he's using, you know, and that's actually a perfect example of framing.
And for his audience, they don't even have to, what I'd say, perceive it a certain way. They're there for a reason, and they kind of accept that, right?
Right.
So he doesn't really have to persuade anybody in this scenario. He just has to frame it to his audience, and his audience takes it wholeheartedly.
They eat it up. But he's not the only one who's doing it. Do not get me wrong. I mean, like, you have everybody from all angles doing the same exact thing.
Yeah.
We're all guilty of it. Mm-hmm. Guilty being a very lax term, for lack of a better word. Mm-hmm. But that's an example.
Okay.
But yeah, so in this class, I had 2 articles up. Okay, yes. And I'm using CNN and Fox News because I know they're like practically polar opposites.
Yeah.
But okay, all right. So what we're going to do is we're going to put these articles side by side, and I want you to pull out the biased language that's being used to turn the story in the way that they want it to lean. This is framing, and this is what we're talking about. This is what we're talking about today.
Yeah.
So, how do you use it against your target?
I mean, it really depends on your audience.
Right.
Yeah.
So, like when you have, and of course, I'm not going to name your employer, but when you have somebody who is interested in applying for a position at your company, or if you meet somebody at a booth, like a recruiting booth, okay, they are coming to you because they see your advertisement, right? Yeah. So you already know that their frame of mind is something technical.
Yeah. Maybe
they're beginner in tech, maybe they're expert in tech, but they have a technical mindset or are at least interested in that.
Yeah.
So you already know that the conversation is going to lean that way.
Yeah.
Most likely, you're not going to be talking about sports. You're not going to be talking about politics, just because.
Yeah.
You're going to be talking about tech. Yeah. You're going to be talking about what we know to be an interest of the person coming and approaching your booth.
Yeah. So you don't have to. I mean, I've been at those booths. I've manned those booths, and now that I think about it, I've never once been there and had to worry about somebody coming up to me and going, "Hey, did you look at the Atlanta game yesterday?" Obviously, I don't know, right? But I don't have to worry about that. They're gonna walk up to me and they go, "Oh my God, did you see the the Equifax hack?" I'm like, "I sure did, dude." And then you know how to talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
Good point.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, all right, last example, and then we'll bring this episode to a close.
Yeah.
Okay. So back in the day, because I'm an old man now, but back in the day, I used to teach martial arts, on the Upper East Side of Vegas, and I remember there was this one time I was teaching the teens class, and I was about to teach the teens class. I was still doing some paperwork, and they were kind of stretching out and running around, getting loose and limber, or whatever. And before I started class, I heard them from my office. I heard them just arguing, I was like, "Whoa, what the hell? Like, what is going on? What is wrong? What happened?" And they got into some fight over some. I can't even remember what it is, but it was bullshit. It really was. I was like, "Wow, I can't believe you guys are fighting about that kind of shit." So, and of course, I wasn't using this language, but this is me, just how I am now, right?
Yeah.
So I said, "All right, half you go to that wall. Okay, half you go to the other wall. Okay, so." We split it in half, like one side of the dojo, other side of the dojo. Okay, half of the class on that side, half of the class on that side. I take a chair, regular chair, and I put the chair in the center of the dojo. Okay, and I said, "All right, you guys, what do you see?" Okay, well, you see a chair. Do we all agree that we see a chair? Yeah. Okay, for you guys, where is the back part of the chair? Okay, well, they pointed this side, let's say, and the other side pointed to that side. Well, the back of the chair then is on your left.
Yeah.
Is it not? Well, yeah. But they're saying that the back of the chair is on their right. It's a right-sided back end of the chair.
Yeah.
So which one of you is right? Frame of mind.
Yeah.
It's the frame of mind. It's the way you frame it. It's the way you framed the position of the chair. It's the way you framed the setup. Half you guys on this side, half you guys on that side.
Yeah.
I set up the frame.
Yeah.
Now which one was wrong? Neither. Which one was right?
Both.
Both were right, or you could say both were wrong.
Technically, yeah.
Right? It's all about perception. Now, framing is the way that you change somebody's perception. Mm-hmm. And so that's why I wanted to end with that story, because I think that was a good visual.
Great, yeah.
See, so that's something that I put down there.
Okay.
So, what did you get out of today's episode?
I mean, definitely I mean, just like how I used the telephone example.
Mm-hmm.
When I never really thought about framing from that perspective. I always thought of it as more manipulation, but you don't really have to be manipulated per se. It's just, there's still, you could argue there's still manipulation in there, but I mean, I guess if you're just the target audience or something, it's going to be framed for you. You don't really need any manipulation or any convincing. You're
right.
Yeah.
Well, here's another aspect of framing, right? When you say manipulate, you're kind of using that as somewhat of a negative tone.
Yeah.
But in my head, I don't see manipulation as a negative term.
Okay.
I personally see it as an objective term, meaning just it's malleable to change things, right?
Yeah.
It's the same word. It's the same word. We're just using it kind of like with a different connotation, with the context of that sentence.
Huh.
So there's another aspect of framing.
Yeah, totally true.
So
kind of like how we used that microphone example earlier.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So anyway, everybody at home, I hope you enjoyed watching this episode. I hope you got something out of it, and I hope that it's been educational for you.
Yeah, and I mean, remember, if you ever have any questions or even comments you want us to talk about on the show, you can just tweet at Mental Overflow on Twitter, and we'll see the question. It might be included in our show.
Exactly. So yeah, actually, thank you, Xenophi. Let's bring up some points of contact. So one thing, and I've been kind of working on this for the last couple of days. I think I might need your help with this, setting up Patreon.
Okay.
So we've got a Patreon page set up, and I need to work on the tiers. But what I'd like to offer is, a way for people who like the show to maybe help support us as one way to do it, and we'll work from there. I just want to let you guys know what's kind of like in the works. So remember, you can get at us at Mental Overflow on Twitter, and I think we got to set that up for all these other social medias.
Yeah.
So
need a couple more.
Yep.
And then you could follow me at Xenophi_EXE.
And I am at Chenbox, CHENB0X. So, all right, guys, thank you very much for watching. This has been episode 4 of Mental Overflow.